All right, we're live. Hi, everybody.
Hello, hello. How's it going?
How is everybody doing? Oh, we've got people on for their first attempt at a short story today.
Ooh, that's exciting. Can you
Welcome.
believe, Catherine, that we're at the 6th annual short story writing challenge today?
No, it feels so surreal. The first time that this one was done, I had just joined as a pro member and I wasn't on the AutoCrit team yet. And I followed along, but I wasn't brave enough to submit my story for the
Mm-hmm.
challenge. So if anybody else is in that boat, be brave. The AutoCrit team is kind. You can submit and we won't judge. But it was so fun. And now it's 6 years. How has it been 6 years?
And I've read some of these stories. We have, and it's absolutely amazing what people come up with, and that gets to the point of we do have a theme for our short story challenge. So I know people are probably anxious about that. Does anyone have any guesses of what kind of theme we could come up with this year? I want to hear guesses.
Yeah, while we're doing that, let me go ahead and pull this up on the screen. It is 100% free to join our short story
Mm-hmm.
challenge. So if you have not signed up already, I'm going to leave the link up on the screen a minute because I know that our ex people can't see the description box. But if you're on YouTube, this link should be in the description box as well. And you can click there to sign up for free. And how this is going to work is we're going to be revealing the theme momentarily. We're going to talk a little bit about the basic guidelines, and then we'll talk about the challenge expectations just overall and dive in and let you get straight to writing.
Yes, and I am seeing a lot of genre suggestions here in the comments. I am very pleased to tell you that you can pick whatever genre you want in our short story challenge. You have anything to say about that, Catherine? I mean, this is not a genre tied challenge. If you want to write dark comedy horror,
Cats
please.
playing hockey, absolutely.
Yeah.
Bring it. Red Wall Hockey Edition. Genre bending, it's all welcome. Now, you do want to make sure that the theme doesn't get lost within your genre. So, you're allowed to have other things going on and other storylines. Like if it's a romance, you can still have the romance in there, but we are still going to expect to see that theme front and center, not just sort of hinted at. So, that's really my only comment here is be imaginative. We've seen people bring creative nonfiction into here as
Oh
well
yeah.
um, in past challenges. So shoot for the hills. It does need to be narrative. We're not looking for a short story developed entirely of a collection of poetry, for example, or something like that. So something with narrative prose. But other than that, as long as it follows the guidelines, you're good. Submit it.
Yep. So I think people are getting pretty excited to know what our theme is. What do you think, Catherine?
Oh, yes. I've seen
All
so
right.
many good suggestions, and I'm like, oh, we need to save some of these for next
I
year.
know. We have Beth in the background. So, Beth, make sure you screenshot some of those good ones so that we have those for later. Oh, my goodness. Okay. So, without further ado, let's move through this and give you guys the information you need to create the best short story possible.
Are you ready?
Okay, I want a virtual drum roll, please. I don't have anything to drum with. Okay. This is our theme, one single day. So, Catherine, do you want to explain it or should I?
I will let you take it away on this one,
Okay.
but I am very, very excited, you guys. And I don't think we mentioned if this is the one challenge every year where the winter stories go in a print anthology, and the cover is gorgeous. But you're gonna have to come back another week to see that.
Yeah, the cover reveal will be next week. But one single day is our theme, which is your short story must take place over the course of 24 hours to fit the theme of one single day. I don't care when this 24 hours is. If it's a historical 24 hours, it's if it's 24 hours on your space journey. If it's at 24 hours on the alien planet, is it 24 hours in a submarine, which actually makes me want to have a panic attack. So maybe not. I'm not really a person who wants to be underwater that long, but 24 hours. It doesn't have to start at midnight and end at midnight. It just needs to be that one single day. That is our theme. What you do with that is up to you. We do have something you'll need to incorporate into that. We are going to let you know now. We debated about whether or not we wanted to have that twist come later, like we've done in previous challenges, but with a short story where every single word counts. We wanted you to have that information up front. You're welcome. So here is that theme. So one single day. Here's our challenge rules. Our important dates you need to know: May 6th, today, is when you can officially start, and we end on May 27th. This goes for those dates. If you, if it goes on May 30th, the challenge is over. So May 27th is that important end date.
And is May 27th the announcement date or the end for submissions, Becca?
The end for submissions will actually be 24 hours after the 27th. So it's going to be the announcement. So we'll end on you'll have 24 hours from the 27th to turn in. So it is the end of the challenge is the 27th, but we give you that grace period because we know we're global and everyone's got a different time zone that they're working with.
Yeah.
We will be defining environmental changes in just a moment, Trinity.
Yeah. And we are asking that you make special note, screenshot it if you must, of the word count this year. We are not going to be accepting stories that are under 2,500 words or over 4,501 word. So that does not include your title, but please don't put your title in the body of the text if you don't want it counted. There is a title box in the top of AutoCrit. We'll show you where that is when it becomes time to submit your piece. So you don't need to write the title of your book in the body of the story. Title's not going to be counted toward it unless you do that. So this should be 2,500 words, including everything, chapter ones, if you're going to put chapters in it, or think as icons. And we are going to be using the AutoCrit word counter to determine whether or not you are within this word count. This is really important because one of the really cool features about AutoCrit is it doesn't estimate your words. It actually counts individual words versus some other platforms that count characters, divide them by like number 5 or 6 or 7, and then estimate your words. So if you're writing outside of AutoCrit during the challenge and bring it in, double check this word count and just make sure that you're within that 2,500 to 4,500 word range. Anything below 2,500 starts to feel a little brief, and then anything over 4,501 will be disqualified because we do have an anthology to keep in mind, and we want to be able to get all of our target winners in that piece.
So we do have a question, Catherine. It says, when it comes to the 24 hours, we have had the comment of 24 hours or 1 day, since a day on Venus, for example, is 14,580 hours. So let's clarify this today. Do we want it to be a day, which could incorporate any number of hours, or do we want it to be a 24-hour Earth-based day? How would you like to do that?
I feel like we've got a lot of sci-fi and fantasy readers who tune into this every year, and I would make it a standard day in the world where the character is
okay.
at.
So we're going to, I will adjust that.
Very cut and dry. 1 day.
Yeah. 1 day, however many hours is in the standard day of the location that you are choosing is 1 single day. Remember, you are capped at 4,501. I added that extra 1 because I was feeling cheeky earlier.
If you're on Earth, like if your piece is on Earth primarily, then it should be a 24-hour Earth day. If it's not on Earth, establish the day and have it be that day.
Yes. Does it need to use all of the 24 hours? I don't think so.
No. Don't overthink too much. You have 1 day in your character's life. Yes. What are you going to do with it?
1 single day. So I will make sure that that clarifies that the day can be defined by the hours that exist in a day in your location, to make sure that we can get all of our sci-fi friends and everyone who's in alternate universe type writers. So I think that's fine. We are going to talk about environmental changes next. Don't worry.
Yeah. So there are no genre requirements again.
No genre requirements, but we are asking that we are requiring that you incorporate an environmental change that forces your characters to adapt. Let's talk about what those could be. We have things like a severe weather event, or that could be flash flood, could be a tornado, could be a hurricane, a cyclone, a blizzard, an ice storm. It could be heat waves, dust storms, hailstorms. Hail freaks me out. It could be earthquakes, volcanic eruptions. Those are technically geological events, but I have them under severe weather. But we have landslides, tsunamis. We have sudden algae blooms, for example, the red tides and things. We have large-scale die-off of perhaps vegetation or wildlife. We have the rapid spread of an invasive species, wildfires. These are things that fall under severe weather events. We are actually providing a list so that you guys can use this for inspiration. It will be in the hub this afternoon, so you can log into AutoCrit and you can see, you'll see the short story challenge icon, and it will have all of the rules and all of the list all in one place so you can reference it whenever you want. We also have the gradual and long-term changes. Maybe this is a change in water, right? Like maybe the dam released or there's a drought. Maybe it's an unusual ice formation. Maybe something is polluted. Maybe it's smog or air pollution from the atmosphere. It could be a sudden shift in wind. Could be unusual cloud formations. This doesn't have to be something, this doesn't necessarily mean that we want everyone to write like a tornado. This could be weird clouds, and that incorporates into, and they have to react to that. It could be changes in lands. I am personally fond of a good sinkhole thing in a story. Not in real life, sinkholes scare me, but like stuff like that. We have changes in vegetation, changes in wildlife behavior. These are all things to help trigger those thoughts. And then we have human-induced changes like pollution events or habitat events or things of that nature. Maybe it could be visible accumulation of litter. Maybe it's something like terrible, like a chemical spill. Maybe it's construction or deforestation or something, but those are human-induced changes. So it has to be something that changes the environment in which your character is existing in, that forces your character to adapt to it. If you are, obviously, these are all like Earth-based things. Technically, I guess it could happen on another planet. If there's an environmental component in your planet that is not Earth, that is forcing them to change, and it's not on this list, that's great. It just has to be an environmental change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And most of the ones on this list are examples. Let me see. I'm trying to get back to my slides. So we're most of the things on this list, I was just looking over the list, Rebecca, are things that you can adapt for your sci-fi or fantasy world. So choose the one that fits best. But we will be looking for one of these things to be present. We've gotten a lot of questions about content. We are not going to restrict what characters you have, whether your story is plot focused or character focused. We are not restricting the genre. We're not restricting what you can have them go through in the piece. If you want them to have flashbacks, let them have flashbacks. If you want them to go through an apocalypse, let it be an apocalypse. If you want them to have a showdown with vampire zombies, then have them do vampire zombie showdown. We do not censor your work, so we are not going to care if you send us super spicy romance or anything like that. For the actual content portion, as long as it meets the theme of happening in the one single day, as long as it is within that required word count and it is a narrative told by a narrator of some kind with this specific twist, you will be okay.
Yep. So let me look in the comments because we have a lot of them. So we have a question of, does the change need to happen within the story itself, or can it be already in place? It could be, as long as we are very clear that this something environmental has changed that has you, I guess if you're telling a story that's reacting to this change, that's fine. But we have to know that it's a change in the status quo, that something has happened. You can't have someone reacting to an extreme drought but not tell us that that's not their normal, if that makes sense.
Other types of changes in a character's life, like the ability to have children or not, the ability to find your true love or not, do not count as environmental changes. So unless there is an environmental change that then affects it, that isn't enough to have in here. So you have to show us the link. What environmental change caused this person to not have the ability to ever get married because maybe they're the last human on earth, right? What environmental change caused them, for the person who asked about, having children, to not be able to have children, or to have superpowers, or to have any other plot device you're going to put into the piece, or character development building you're going to put into the piece. Give us an environmental key change that affects them. And building off what Becca said, for me personally, when I'm looking through these stories, I'm not going to be looking for things where the change has been so long ago that it's now the norm. We're not talking about a change for us as readers. We're talking about a change for the character and for their life. So this needs to be something that impacts them in their story somehow. So if there was an apocalypse 500 years ago, how does that affect them today, and what environmental changes are happening? Are they starting to see regrowth of vegetation and stuff now, and people are fighting over that space? That kind of thing. Personally, I don't care if it's first person or third person. Do you, Becca?
No, you can write in whatever person you would like. You can write in whatever tense. It's a beauty. The beauty of short story is that you can pretty much you can do quite a bit. So yeah.
And no, the character does not have to fix the change. They can just be experiencing it and showing us the repercussions.
Yeah, let's see. We have Trinity here. Sorry. What about an event that would be normal but then turns extreme? Yeah, that's an environmental change right there. If it's a drizzle and you're like, oh, look, I have my cute rain boots. And then, oh, good Lord, the entire river just spread out into, the flood of the century. That's a pretty extreme environmental change to what your normal is. So remember, it's a change from the normal that forces your characters to adapt. On the flip side of that, if perhaps you're set in a desert and it gets a little bit of rain every year, but you get a moderate rainstorm that is normal everywhere else but unusual in the desert, and it doesn't have to necessarily be this huge, long, devastating act. It could be the fact that it is unusual to get 2 inches of rain, which is your yearly amount of rain, in the span of 12 hours. That would be kind of a lot for a lot of places. You can also react to that. That makes sense, like weather. There are no rules about profanity or necessarily heat levels. We don't censor you.
Yeah, I've seen some very gory horror come through these challenges over the past couple years. Yeah, and Becca, we're not going to be reading these stories aloud on YouTube, right? Because we want you guys to be able to then take them and query them for traditional publication if you want, or use them as the starting stone for a bigger piece if you want to. Maybe this turns into a full-length novel or a novella, and you go on to use that as a lead magnet, or use it for your Novel 90 challenge next month when we kick off in June. So we're not going to be reading your stories. You retain full rights to all your work. So you don't have to worry about them being necessarily YouTube appropriate for your content. But know that there are going to be human judges that are reading and judging these pieces. And what we are looking for when we look over these, we have some tips about writing short stories and some things we're going to be looking over. But the most important thing is the environmental change clear? And does it affect the main character in an active way? Is everything within a character's single day, one day in that character's life? And is it narrative? And within, of course, the word count.
Yep.
So, Becca, I know you put together some great story tips to think about when writing a short story. And I 100% agree what we just said about that character change. Having an active impact on the character's life could take this number one point for your theme, but it doesn't have to. We are going to be looking for stories with a single strong story idea. What you do with this story after the challenge is up to you. Make it convoluted and add all of these things, but we want at least one self-contained theme. And self-contained means it should have a clear beginning, a middle, and an end with an actual resolution that is not a blatant cliffhanger.
Yeah, so I think that also these are also just general tips on how to write a short story, because as someone who doesn't write short normally, I write long, I write extended, long, chunky books. Short stories can feel really intimidating because you are limited, severely so, by your word count. Like, it takes me 4,501 words to get to the freaking point, not complete the whole story sometimes. So short stories, I just want you to remember, they thrive on the focus, right? Instead of a sprawling plot, you choose one clear premise, emotion, or moment of change. Things you can ask yourself is, what's the one thing this story is about emotionally, thematically, dramatically? So you want to think about that. This could be a decision, this could be a revelation, or a shift in a relationship. You can build around that. So example, now I'm put myself on the spot because I actually didn't put together an example. So hold on, let's put my ADHD to the test. A woman confronts the ghost of her grandmother during a power outage. That is very random, but would make the foundation of a short story. When you have a single strong idea, you're encapsulated. We have the begin late, end early. That's where we're not needing the full backstory in a short story. We don't need the drawn out resolution. We're focusing on that turning point for our story because we have 4,501 words. Short fiction is a snapshot. It's not a biography. So keep that in mind. You can let the reader infer what came before and imagine what might come next. That is something you can do. Do you have anything else about begin late and early to add, Catherine?
No. I think that sums it up nicely. It all ties in, making every single word count here.
Yes. That is our make every word. Wordy people unite. Raise your hand if you are a wordy person by nature. I see you all out here. But you're going to want to recognize that space is limited. So you need to make sure that every line is going to add value, whether it's revealing your character, pushing the plot forward, or deepening this theme of one single day. You can use dialogue, setting, description, but be precise about it. You need to be, this is the one time when I'm going to tell you to be kind of vicious with how you cut things that don't serve the core purpose. I want you to make sure that this is going to be tight. You need to ask yourself, as you're going line by line through your short story, does this advance something? Is it moving forward a character, plot, or theme? If not, you're gonna need to decide if you need it or not, because those words, maybe it's just a short sentence of, I don't know, 7 words, and those 7 words could be used elsewhere. Those 7 words matter when we're talking about 4,501 words. If I'm writing something, it's like 130,000 words. I don't really care if I'm 7 words extra wordy in point A or point B.
Mm-hmm.
So Chris asks, does reproductive issues like the Handmaid's Tale count as an environmental change? I'm going to say no, unless it is because of like an Aaron Brockovich situation where you had chemical pollution or something that caused major health issues that then caused fertility or reproductive issues that was from the change in the environment. So that's a human-induced environmental change based on significantly, you need to focus a little bit on that pollution aspect that then caused that situation.
Yeah. And I see a lot of these specific questions about plot related things. How the plot affects the character does not affect the environment. So think about your environmental change affecting your world building more than it being plot. Now, your plot is affected because of the world building, but space pirates get stranded because they lose power on the ship. Well, that's the space pirates losing power on the ship is because of the world building, but it is plot. So the environmental change then creates this element for the plot to evolve in, essentially. And we really don't want you agonizing over all of this. So I highly recommend picking one of the environmental changes off of the list that we will be providing to registrants instead of thinking too hard, go over that list and see if your idea falls into one of those. And if it does, you're great, you're done. Pro members, if you're an AutoCrit Pro member, in the Pro member community forums, there's a thread that's labeled Does It Count? You can drop your Does It Count questions there. And if you're not a Pro member, we have a little help bubble in the bottom right corner of the site. So instead of taking a chance on whether or not it's going to count, just click the help bubble and let them know I'm doing the short story challenge. I want to use this as my environmental change. Is that okay? And our team can help you. But the list will be the quickest, easiest way to answer that question, because we're going to be looking for changes that are from that list first and foremost. If it's not on that list, you're going to have to convince us of how this is going to work. So if it's on the list, automatic safe.
Patty asks, does it have to be a disaster? Could the environmental change bring something good for the character? Yes, please. It can definitely be something good. When you're thinking about, maybe it's this farming community that has been struggling in a drought for a long time, and the change is the fact that they have a witch who moves to their community and helps change the weather patterns and is able to bring in some rain and bring in all of these crops. Sure. Knock yourself out. The list is going to be posted, Kara, in the hub this afternoon. So that is where we will post it, and we're going to pin it. So whether you're a free member or a pro member of AutoCrit, you're going to be able to log in using your account. You're going to go over to our hub, and you're going to see the short story challenge icon, and you're going to click on that, and it's going to say the resources, and it's going to have everything we talked about written out so that you can reference it at any time. And then the replay, obviously, since we're on YouTube, you'll be able to watch whenever you want.
Yeah. And I think I can share where the hub is, just so that way everybody's clear. It should be the very first screen that you see when you log in to your AutoCrit account, which is this one right here. So this is the hub. And on this little panel down here under the hub is where you are going to see the list pinned, and it will be there for the entirety of the entire challenge. So go there first, and you'll be able to get that post. And anyone can join the challenge anytime. As we said before, it is 100% free to join. Anything you have to have in order to complete this challenge, we are giving you for free. In the 6 years we have done this challenge, we have never asked for payment for participation. So our goal is to give you a chance to stretch your writing muscles and find a writing community that you can write with and try something fun. No strings attached.
And again, as a reminder, 100% of your rights belong to you in these stories. We do not take any of your rights. We don't take any of that. That is all yours. It is a writing challenge to get you writing. That is the extent.
Mm-hmm.
So we will be talking about how to submit the story next week is when we're going to do that. But I wanted to talk about what everyone always wants to know. And of course, I forgot a space. So there's a weird typo, and I will have to fix that. Okay, so here are our prizes this year. We are going to do a trophy anthology like we have done in the past. So you want to talk about the trophy anthology, Catherine? What is a trophy anthology?
Yeah, so a trophy anthology is not published. Don't worry, you can still take your piece and go put it out. It will not be sold anywhere. You still retain full rights to all your work, like Becca said. A trophy anthology is when you have something in print that has your story in it, but it is only for you and the authors who contributed to it. So the winners will each receive one trophy anthology. It will not be sold or made available to anybody else in AutoCrit. You will be the only people who get a copy if you are in that winner's circle. The total number of winners differs by year. Some years we've had 10, we might have 9, we might have 11. It comes down to ultimately the judge's decision when we go through all of the stories and pick the awards. But you will receive a print version of the anthology if you are chosen as the winner, and your story will be formatted and printed into there.
So yes, and then we did have a question. What is the theme? The theme again is one single day. The length of the day in hours is determined by your location. So if you're on Earth, it's 24 hours. If you are on Venus, it's like a very specific number that's like 14,000 something hours. It is one single day, and our word count is 2,500 to 4,501 words.
Yeah, Bruce, they're going to vary. It really comes down to how many stories the judging panel ends up choosing for that winner slot. No, we do not give runner-ups a copy because we want the winners to have sole right to their own work, and we're not going to be distributing or publishing the piece. It wouldn't really be fair to distribute copies of winner stories without their permission to other people. So if the winners would like to share their stories, there will be a thread that goes up in the forums like there is every single year for the last 5 years. You can actually go find last year's still in the forums if you go dig in the short story thread. So if you're a pro member, you can go check those out there and read the ones that winners were happy to share. But there are some winners who have gone on to take their winning stories, turn them into full-length novels, and then query them or publish them. And so they're very protective of that content, and they have the right to be. And we want to be respectful of that. For other prizes, for our main winners, you're going to be getting that trophy anthology, but we'll also be giving out AutoCrit Pro memberships, as well as professional story critique sessions as prizes this year. And this will be with our editing team and academy team. So we're very excited to put all of that together.
And we'll probably have some other surprise prizes as we go along because I love to give out prizes. So we'll see.
And no, we're not publishing your trophy anthology. We've got to be very clear about that too, because if a piece is published, then it affects your ability to query it or to self-publish it somewhere else. So we do not have first publication rights. Your piece is not going to be published anywhere. We are not publishing your stories. We are just going to make a single trophy anthology copy for each of the winners, and they will be the ones that receive it. In order to be published, it has to be available for public consumption, either free or purchase, I believe. So we will not be doing that. All right. Not everybody gets prizes, but you do get the pleasure of other people's time and company and camaraderie and this adventurous story that you're going to have. So we count that as a prize, right, Becca?
Absolutely. You know what? This is a great part of the beauty of being an author and to be participating in challenges like this is you get to a camaraderie, and we have a lot of that going on in the AutoCrit forums. We also have a Facebook group. So yeah, definitely drop in, interact with each other, have a good time, brainstorm if you want to. You know, there's a lot going on, and we want you to be part of it. And we're just excited. The submission instructions, will be announced when it is time, when submissions open. They are not currently open because we just opened the challenge just now. But yes, I am so excited to see what you guys come up with. I personally really like the theme, and I think that there's a lot of flexibility. And again, we're just asking for the story. You're not, and to include the components that we talked about. You're not attaching anything else, and we will be submitting within AutoCrit, which we will get into in the following weeks. There are limits to length. Yes. You can only submit one per person. You can only submit one short story, and it cannot be longer than 4,501 words. If you send me something that is 4,507 words, unfortunately, that will be disqualified.
Yeah.
If you send me something that's 2,399 words, that will also be disqualified because the window of words, that's fun to say, window of words. I'm sorry, you guys know that the ADHD is strong over here, is 2,500 to 4,501. That's your window. Use them wisely. And in case you're feeling intimidated, I want you to go Google some short stories. I want you to look in our forums for some short stories. I have seen people create magic in 2,500 words. It is very doable. So I believe in you.
And we did get a couple questions that we sort of answered in the chat, but I'm going to mention it for people watching the replay and who are watching on X.
Yep.
If you have a story, it's a work in progress or a trunk story that this made you think of, we are not telling you you cannot use that story, but our challenge is ultimately a writing challenge more than just a story contest. So the purpose of this is to make you stretch yourself, to make you write, to make you think outside of your comfort zone a little bit. So we would encourage you to consider writing an original story, but if you have a piece that meets all the requirements, you can still submit it for consideration. But it does have to take place in a single day. It does have to fall within these word counts, and it does have to have that environmental change that will affect the main character in the story in an active way. We are using the AutoCrit Writer's Desk. You have to submit through there. So when we open submissions, it will be through the free Writer's Desk that every participant will get access to when you register. And we will use the AutoCrit word counter in the top right corner. And I'm going to say one last time, so it's recorded for perpetuity. We are not counting the title in the word count. Do not put your title in the actual text. There is a special spot for it, and you will see where that is when we get to the submission instructions. The information is not out yet, James. It will be going up, like Becca said, later today on the hub. And then you will be receiving an email from us of all of our challenge participants. So if you want news, make sure that you are subscribed to our newsletter and that you have registered for the challenge. It is free to do that. And then Becca, we're going to email them out the link to the DAP.
So give us, we have office hours next, and give me an hour and I'll have all of that ready to go. A pandemic.
No, it cannot end in a blatant cliffhanger. It cannot end in a blatant cliffhanger. We do want a very clear beginning, middle, and end. Now, if you have a soft sub cliffhanger, which means you introduce multiple themes, and maybe you're thinking of using this as a reader magnet, and the romantic side plot hints that there's a bigger book coming, great. But we want the primary theme, the one that's attached to the environmental change and your main character, that one needs to be resolved by the end of the short story. It doesn't have to be happy. It just has to be resolved.
So I will just answer this. So technically, under the definition of what is an environmental change, and we have had multiple questions about pandemic-like things. A pandemic can be considered an environmental change if it's introducing a new biological factor that affects human population health and survival. It could be if it's disrupting like an ecosystem, there's zoonotic disease, that kind of thing like that. It could be if it's dramatically changing human systems, right? Like social norms, mobility, infrastructure. Those are environmental changes.
And you can absolutely upload pieces into AutoCrit from outside. We have a step-by-step guide that can help walk you through doing that. If you go to our help bubble and click search for help and just click type in upload, the word count will update when you upload a file showing the AutoCrit words. And remember, every single word that it shows is counting every single unique word in your entire manuscript, and your word count will very likely be different if you wrote in a system that estimates word count like Google Docs or Microsoft Word. Those add all your characters and divide them by another number to estimate words, whereas AutoCrit counts actual individual words. And the only word count our judges will be looking at is the AutoCrit count. So if it was 4,500 words in Word and it's 4,800 in AutoCrit, you're going to have to cut 300 words because we're not going to be exporting this to a docx to see what that word count is there. We're only going to go by that word box in the top right corner in AutoCrit.
Okay.
Some of the questions you have, we're going to be answering in future episodes. And for the sake of time, we're not going to be answering all the stylistic and submission questions today here. Please do save them. We don't want you guys getting bogged down with small details about font type and size and things that you can change with just 2 clicks of a button. In AutoCrit, just a Control-Alt or Command-A and then click the size. We want you to focus on your story at this point. So focus on writing. The rest will come when it comes. We are not accepting audiobooks. It does have to be written, and it does have to be written out in AutoCrit. But if you like doing voice to text, there is voice to text dictation for pro members, but that is not required for the challenge, so it will not be included with your free challenge membership. You will have to upgrade for that perk.
So one of the things too, if you're curious about how dictation works inside of AutoCrit, is if you go into the calendar and you look at past events, you will see, scroll down a ways, you'll be able to see a speech to text demo, which should be available to everyone, and you can see how it works inside of AutoCrit.
Good questions here. And of course, you can submit this in any form of English, UK English, US English, Australian English. We're good. We're not nitpicky about your style guide preferences. Any other parting thoughts, Becca?
No, I'm just really excited for this one. I think that there's so many different ways you can take this. There's so many different elements, and I don't want you guys to overthink the environmental change side of this. It doesn't have to be something major like a hurricane or a tornado. It can be something small. It doesn't have to always be inherently negative. It can be positive as well. Remember, it is a change in the environment that your character exists in that forces your character to adapt. If you're on the planet Dr. Pepper, because that's directly in front of me, and dear planet Dr. Pepper, and it has, the sun has moved from green to purple that day, that is an environmental change. And it could be a very funny story about the day of the purple sun on planet Dr. Pepper. I don't know. Again, ADHD probably should not take story of brainstorming from me. But these are the kinds of environmental changes that could happen. It doesn't necessarily have to be this like tragic, terrible thing. It could just be the day the sun turned purple. So anyway, with that, we're going to leave you. I think we're going to leave you with the purple sun of Dr. Pepper.
That sounds great. So dive in, have fun with it. Know that our support team is here to help you if you have questions. You can reach us via the help bubble, and we are a 100% human-based support team. Yep. There are no bots sitting in the background fishing out scripts to throw at you. So if you send us a challenge message, a real human will reply to you, and we will try to get your information sorted out. But best of luck, you guys. We're really excited to see the stories.
Yes. All right. Happy writing. Go forth and create.
Bye, everybody.